Welcome to my channel where the fun never ends. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Today I'm going to show you how to build on a Tek Hover Skiff. I've been getting a couple of requests for it, so here we go. Now this episode is going to be a two-part episode. This first one is going to be a lot of information, and I mean a lot of information. So sit back, relax, and learn. First off, to get the Tek Hover Skiff engram, you need to defeat the boss on Genesis 1. It's called Master Controller. It's a pretty hard fight. As you can see, I don't have the engram because I traded for the skiff. I took the lazy approach. Ha 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 ha. And these suckers can be soul trapped. Now, one thing I want to point out is that make sure you keep element in your Tek Hover Skiff. Oh, minor lag spike. Ignore that. Here we go. I mean, it can only hold 100, but if you have a Omni tool to advance transfer stuff, you can easily put like 5,000 element into it. Okay, now this is very, very important stuff. So your very first piece should be a foundation piece. Do not use an S plus or an N plus if you have that mod on your server. Do not use S plus for this very first piece. Why? Because there is a 50-50 chance this piece will not stick to your skiff, and you'll only get halfway through your build or even completely done, take off in your skiff, and have your design left on the ground. Yeah, do not do that. So 100% use a vanilla foundation piece. Or, I've had pretty good luck with this CKFR Keep Foundation. A lot of servers have it. This one works good. Here, I'll even go as far as this. Foundations. So, you could go straight thatch foundation if you want. You only need one single foundation. But, you know, make yourself like 3 of them just to have extra. You can do thatch. Do not do S plus thatch. Same with wood, stone, metal, whatever you want to do. Now, another thing that I need to point out. As you can see, I am on my Tek base above like about 1 million Tek ceiling tiles. Now, getting your very first foundation piece on your skiff, do not do it on top of other stuff like this. Now, hang on, because, like right here, I'm trying to get it on the skiff, but because I'm so close to these other building parts, it doesn't want to work right. So, here's what you do. You just simply take off and land any old spot as long as it's solid ground. Just go to solid ground. And of course, for those of you that know Ragnarok Highlands, this is usually a pretty dangerous area, so, yep, like, look at that monster over there. I tell you what, let me TP to a safer location. Okay, so I just decided to come over to my Scorched Earth base, which is nothing but a pretty big wall, and I have nothing but solid ground here. So let's get back to this. Now try to have it as flat as possible. As you can see, it kind of curves a little bit to the left. Let me fix that real quick. Yeah, okay, that's good enough. And there's my Y-wing, which I'll show off that in a second. So, there are 2 different ways of doing this that will get you 2 completely different designs. And I'm going to show you both, hence why I got 2 skiffs out here. Okay, first one involves this foundation piece being right in the middle. Now, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, okay. So, see this spot here? Try to line your foundation up right there. I mean, if you want to go slightly back, like to this line, or slightly forward, that's fine. That's all up to you. But left and right, yeah, try to have it like this. Now, one thing to note, this right here, this second foundation piece will not connect. But a ceiling tile will. Now here's the hard part. getting this lined up. Let's see here. Oops. Falling off my skiff. I think it's lined up, but tell you what, let me just move on to the next step and we will rewind it a minute. Now the most important piece here, glass half wall. Or anything you got, as long as it's half. In the server I'm on, this is the only wall that's half. So, and here's why you do it. Put one there, one under it, and a third. Why are we doing the third? Because these ceiling tiles don't like to connect to the bottom part. It's got to be the top part like this. So, place a tile there, and one there. And go ahead and bring this over here. Alright, now before we go any further, let's make sure. Grab my gun. Now, is this lined up? See, that looks like that. Okay, there. And okay. Honestly, I think that's about as lined up as it's going to be. Now, I'm not going to lie. Placing this very first block can take quite a long time. If you are slightly off... Here, let me show you. Whee! Oops. Forgot how to fly. Alright, let me just, well, let me plop you in like that. See how this is crooked? If your first foundation piece is crooked, you will regret it. So take the time and get this as even as you can. Even if it takes you like an hour. And I'm not kidding, I have spent an hour doing this one foundation piece. Because it was a pain in the you-know-what. Okay. So now that that is done and lined up, we can get rid of these half walls. And we can get rid of this one foundation piece. Boom. And go ahead and plop down some more ceilings. You can use whatever ceiling tile you want. Me, I'm just using Tek because it's the strongest. And definitely when you get this far, just fly real quick. Okay, it's stuck. Good. Now if you used an S Plus foundation, there's a 50-50 chance these pieces will not stick. And that half wall is so these ceiling tiles can be lined up perfectly with the skiff itself. Now before I show you the second way, this was one foundation in the middle. The other one's going to be two foundations in the middle. But before that, let me just place some random pieces. Okay, I'll stop there. And where's... Oop. Triangle ceilings. Yeah. Tell you what, let me do this. There we go. And that will give you this nose design. And I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but if you're on a server that has that doesn't have a platform item limit maxed out, you're going to be very limited. Because I want to say the default is 50 items, so that's like 50 ceiling tiles total you can put on a skiff. I have been on servers that have a 250 item limit. That's doable, but you are incredibly limited. And like my Y-Wing over there, I don't know, I want to say it's like 500 items. I did not count. Do not quote me on it. And the server I am playing on has these platform item limits maxed out. I love it. So, whoop. If you don't have to worry about an item limit and you're doing this specific design, you can chop this square block off. And place in the triangles because they're like slightly off. But more on that once we get into an actual press the right button, prime. Doom, 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 doo doo doo. And so on and so forth. So this nose right here, one square and then triangles on the sides, that is the same design as my Y-wing right over here. As you can see, that, and that. But we'll get into this design much later. So that is how you do this. Now, let's move on to the second part. Having two foundations. This one might be just a tiny bit trickier. Let's see here. First off, we're lining the ghost image up with this line right here in front of me. Okay. And now you want to line the side up with that bar right there. And then over here. Now, how's it look? Here, let me, Alright. As you can see, that bar is lined up with this gray part here. And that bar is lined up with this gray part here. Wow. Keep in mind, I've done this like so many times I can do it in my sleep. You, yourself, you might take a few more tries just to get this right. If that's the case, don't sweat it. You'll get it. Oh. And before I place this one, see how much higher it is for this foundation piece? The whole reason I am using these half walls there to lower this height, which in my opinion it's so much better this way, so much better. Alright, so go ahead and plop down your thingies. Whoops. I'll delete that in a second. Yeah, and you can't walk next to that fin. Kind of dumb. But that's how Ark is. Alright, so just like before, place your ceiling tiles around the skiff, and then go ahead and chop these off. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And bada bing, bada boom. It sticks. Yay. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so now I show you why there are two different designs. Ta-da! See, using two foundations in the middle will get you a pointier nose. And if you guys have seen my battle skiff that I had over on Extinction, I lost it, it got destroyed. Yeah, I'm not getting into that, but this is a great design if you want to have like a fighter jet, battle skiff, etc. Okay, so to recap, we got this one here, pointy tip, pointy nose I should say, and this one here, a much wider nose. Oh, and also the Colossus that I just uploaded yesterday has this design as well. But more on that later. So you have two very separate designs to choose from. And now the next step. Know your limitations. First off, you can access the skiff's inventory, but when you have this many ceiling tiles right in front of the driver's seat, you cannot. There we go. So these first two tiles, you might have to just take them out just so you can access the inventory. Here, and I'll even check it on this one. Shortcut. Okay, get rid of this one. Yep. So you just need to keep this one block in front of the driver's seat open so you can access your inventory. Now the next thing I'm going to show you. Now you know, well, if you know me, you know I love tech turrets. I'm going to show you this over here real quick. Now there is a reason I don't have any tech turrets on the back of this. See what read what it says. Can't place tech turret. This structure is too high above the platform. This is your limitations. You cannot. There's only blah, blah, blah. Can't talk. Like I can build here, but I can't build here. This is just how Ark is. There's no way around it. I mean, you just have to build with these limitations. And as you can see, you can place all these ceiling tiles and roofs way back here, but stuff like tech turrets, they have their limits. It says it's too high above the platform, but yeah, the height really has no thing to do with it. Like right there. I am on the platform. It's too high, but it's right next to the driver's seat. So that is something to keep in mind. And going back to the limitations. You gotta know how far ahead you can build, which I can really build this far ahead. Okay, what was that sound? It must be a dino fight outside the gate. Here, let me do it this way. Okay, this is not showing me what I want it to show. Okay. Well, let me just fly and see what happens. Okay. Well, then again, the item limit is maxed out on this server, so that might be the case. So, bad example. My bad. Bad example. But the point I was making is that you know how we could only build so far with those tech turrets? Eventually, the game will say, no, you can't place any further in one direction. So that is your next goal. Find your limits. And if your limits are as truly as big as this is, yeah, don't build that big. Don't build your skiff way out here. That's just crazy. Oh boy. Okay, so let's see. We discussed the first foundation piece. We discussed the half walls, ceiling tiles. Now, I mean, you don't have to use ceilings. It's just a personal preference. You can replace all of these with straight up foundation pieces. And my battle skiff, the bottom half, was foundation pieces. You'll have to watch that video separately because, you know, that got destroyed. So, and we discussed the limitations. So that's really it. As long as you get those first foundation pieces down and they stick, and then you know your limitations, the sky's the limit. I mean, you could pretty much build anything you want while within the item limit. And when it's maxed out, technically I don't know the item limit. I have yet to reach it. I want to say it's 1,000, but do not quote me on that number. Oh, and I will point out that your skiff does have a weight limit of 22,400. Now for normal stuff, like walls, ceilings, turrets, etc., piece of cake. But if you want to use your skiff as a base and store extra stuff in here, like, oh, I don't know, stone, obsidian, etc., etc., go on a metal farming run, you are going to be limited by that weight. And even if you don't put it in the skiff itself, here, let me show you the other one. Like a plain old tech storage box or any kind of box. If you put everything in here, it still adds to this weight. You just simply can't see it. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'll go ahead and end the video by showing off my 2 skiff designs. I would love to do the third, but as I've said already, it got destroyed. I built these suckers specifically for farming OSD drops on extinction, and yeah, that was a bad idea. Don't do that. Like, as you can see, the skiff itself has 14,000 health, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say there was a patch like a year ago, or at some point, it's basically said, blah blah blah, anything connected to a skiff platform shares the same HP. Translation, all of these fancy 10k health pieces mean nothing, because it all adds up to one single health, 14k. I mean, don't quote me on that. I'm going to need someone to get the details. Oh, and by the way, I'm using multi-purpose lamps here. It's kind of bright. I gotta change those settings. But these are just some of the possibilities you can have. I mean, like I said, sky's the limit. And even though this nose here is the one with the one foundation in the middle, as you can see, I have expanded. Basically, the ceiling tile was right there. And then I took one of these slopes tech glass roof to go down there. And I'll go into more details with this stuff in my next video. Alright, let me show you my last one and we'll be done.